Hi boys and girls, today we're going to be looking at Bifrost and most importantly the new Bifrost editor which has come out in Maya 2019.2. We're also going to be looking at some of the Bifrost scenes that are pre-built that we can just drag and drop into the Maya scene, and we're going to look at creating a new network, Bifrost network, and as I learn, you'll learn, because whatever I pick up I'll pass on. I haven't really been using it for long, so this is a nice simple little introduction and we can both learn from it. Alright, let's get to it. Alright ladies and gentlemen, I just want to show you something that I've been looking at. I've been so busy with work, I haven't even had a chance to look at this in Maya 2019.2. So if you haven't got Maya 2019.2 and you want to follow along with this, I'd suggest that you download it and update. Okay, so the first thing you're going to probably need to do is to go into Windows, Settings, Preferences and the Plugin Manager, and you're going to need to scroll down until you get to the Bifrost section, and you're going to need to switch on this new attribute here and here. And yeah, to be honest, it's probably best just to switch them all on. Alright, so what you'll get then is the Bifrost graph editor open by going to Windows, Bifrost graph editor here, and you also want to fire up the Windows Bifrost browser, and let me just drag that in here as well, so this will open up as well. First thing I'm going to do is dock my Bifrost graph editor down here, and we'll just have a quick look through this. So inside the Bifrost browser, you've got a bunch of presets that you can just drag directly straight into the My viewport here. So we've got like smoke plumes, cigarette smoke, all sorts of different things, dry ice, we've got fire, explosions, and these are all great start-off points. In fact, they look really good. Some of them are a little bit slow. We've got volumes, there's a procedural cloud here, we've got a sand simulation and a snow simulation, and I haven't really looked through these that much, but I've looked around on how to use the Bifrost graph editor to start making your own simulations. Now, it's very complex, it's procedural, so a lot like Houdini. It's not, in my opinion, as fast as Houdini, but it's pretty quick, and it opens up a huge new area for Maya, and I'm quite surprised that this hasn't been like massive over the internet. I've seen some stuff about it, but really I didn't see like there was a huge noise made about it. Maybe I've just been too busy, but let's just have a little look. So the first thing you want to do, and I've looked up how to use this. I didn't know how to use this at all either, so we're just going to do something like simple today, and then as I learn, I'll teach you guys as well if you're interested. So first thing we do in the graph editor is to go create new graph. And this snazzy new look, I really like the design of this. This all looks really nice. If my 2020 all starts to look like this, then it gets my thumbs up. So we've got an input and we've got an output. The output, so this is all Bifrost. Everything in here is Bifrost. But we can take things from Maya, so like geometry, and the geometry will be our input. Then we'll create functions in between the geometry, so the input, and the output. And the output is basically a result that we're going to see in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a sphere. You can see that the sphere turns up here, and I'm going to middle mouse drag it into here. So we've got our sphere, and that's our input. So we can even just delete this input. There's our sphere. So it's hard to know where to start on this because there's so much in here, and if you're into your maths, or math if you're American, then this is certainly the place for you, but it's also kind of intuitive for the artist as well. I just hope it gets a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more like Houdini, because you kind of need to know what these functions are before you start using them, whereas in Houdini you've got it kind of all makes sense on how to use it. It's quite simple, drag, drop, connect, well, for the novice anyway. So we can hit tab, the tab key, and we can get up a whole bunch of attributes here, all different nodes, that we can create inside this Bifrost graph. So I'm going to start with some particles. So if I start typing in particle, we'll get different elements that are to do with particle. There's a lot in here. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on the basic particles graph, and that's just going to create some basic particles for us. Now it doesn't look like much at the moment, so what you've got to do is right click and go explode, and then it brings out some more nodes so that we can start connecting things up. Now I understand this is a different way of working in terms of Maya. It's all very visual and there's menus and stuff like that, so it's just going to take a bit of time to start getting used to, but some of it at the moment makes sense. So if we grab this mesh output here, we can drag mesh into geometry. That makes sense, right? And also, these little nodules on the end are the same color. So that invariably means that we can use those. So now we've got our sphere connected to our particle simulation. So we can see here we've got particles, much like N particles, we've got particles, we've got our solver, you know, like a nucleus, but it's not, it's Bifrost. And we've got the simulation, and then we come out to the output. So without the output plugged in, we're not going to see anything. So we're going to drag these particles into the output, and that's now connected. And as you can see, bam, we've got some particles. Although they look a little bit odd, they're showing up here. So if I rewind and play now, we've got particles falling in our scene. Now that was a quicker setup than, you know, if I hadn't been explaining it, that was a quicker setup than creating N particles, create a mirror, do the particle, set your rate, all that kind of thing. So we can click on the source particles and you get some attributes come up in here, and there's even a nifty little info tab where it tells you different bits of information about the attributes within the parameters. So we've got a start frame set, we're emitting from a surface, we've got the volume size, we've got the rate. So if I stick in here a number like, let's go 5000. Now it does take a few seconds to update sometimes, especially if you're forward on the timeline, but we're just going to rewind there. And if we hit play, you can see that's a lot of particles. That is a lot of particles, but it's simulating really quite fast. So, you know, if we want to, we can mesh this and turn it into a liquid. But, you know, at the moment we're not going to. I'm just going to show you some of the things it can do. So we've also got we've got speed, bounciness, velocity, age, size, all that kind of thing. So size, that's our particle size that we can see in here. And we can actually go down to like 0.0, let's go 0.02. And just give that a second. And now I'm going to rewind. I'm going to play that. And now we've got like tiny particles. Just going to get rid of the grid. There we go. So tiny particles. Right, so next up, we want to add some like turbulence, you know, all those kind of lovely things that we usually add in a particle sim. So if you see on this simulate particles node, we've got an area that says influences with a little plus sign next to it. We're going to need to plug some stuff into influences. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So if we hit the tab key here, and I'm just going to type in influ, and as soon as I start typing that, we've got different influences turn up. Now influences are basically like fields. So look, here we go. We've got turbulence influence. Let's click on that, and here's our turbulence influence. Let's just rewind. Okay, so quite simply, again, because it's got like, you know, the same coloured little nodules here, we're just going to drag it and stick it into the influence. Now, this turbulence node has obviously got its own set of parameters down here. So we could stick in like 50 for turbulence, and we can change the frequency and the rate and various other things. So if I rewind and play now, we can see that the turbulence is indeed affecting this simulation. I'm going to turn this down to about 10 because that 50 is too much for me. And if it gives us a second, I'm going to rewind and play it. So we can see that we've got, you know, some kind of shape going onto it. And we can add more influence nodes if we want. So, you know, strangely, it kind of knows that we're still looking at influences, so we can go for a radial or we can go for like a wind influence. So if we click that again, we just drag that and click that into influence as well. So now we've got 2 influences running. I'm just going to rewind this. Here we go. So click on influence and we've got wind speed, and we can see this 1 in X and it's 5 in the speed. So let's just rewind and play, and we can see that it is starting to move in like that general direction. We could up this speed to like 15, rewind and play, and there we go. That's shooting off down there. Now, because we've got our sphere in the scene still, we can, of course, animate this sphere if we want to. We can stick it on a motion path. So, all of this is still going to be affected. Now, I haven't actually done that yet, so let's just give it a go right now. Let's just create a quick CV curve. Where's curves? Where's the curves? Curve tool, CV curve tool, and let's just go bish bosh, bish bosh, bish bish bish. There we are. Nice curve, and I'm going to grab the sphere, I'm going to grab the curve, and I'm going to go into animation, constraint, motion path, attach to motion path, and maybe over like, let's just go over 100 frames. I'm going to apply that and close. So I haven't actually seen how this is affected when it's on a motion path, so it'll be quite interesting. Yeah, cool, and it works as I thought. It's just being affected correctly by the wind and the rest of the solver attributes, which is awesome. So we're quickly getting to a stage, you know, like my other tutorial I showed where I was using Bifrost points and rendering them in Arnold. Same thing, but this is how it should be done, and now we can do it with this new Bifrost graph editor, which is insane. And this is just the tip of the iceberg with what you can do in this graph editor. It is mental. So you've got to learn it. I've got to learn it. So the next step, I'm just going to create a little light, because we're going to leave it here. I just want to see what this looks like. I'm just going to create a little area light over here, and I'm going to bring it over here, rotate it around. And what I'm also going to do is just get my Hypershade open, and I'm going to stick on a, let's have a look. I'm going to go over a AI standard surface. I'm going to select the BIF1 node, and I'm going to assign that material to that surface. So I'm going to keep the light selected. I'm going to open up the Arnold render view, and then I'm just going to hit IPR. Let it start thinking and doing its thing. Give it a second. So we can create like snow, sand, like literally anything in this. I'm just going to bring up the intensity a bit and exposure. There we go. And we can see we've got some nice thick particles going on. We can indeed up those particles, no problem whatsoever. If I just scale this up a bit, get a bit more light coming in. So they're pretty damn thick. Let's just run the simulation a bit more. Obviously Arnold's not happy about that. And because we've got a AI surface on it, we can just go in and colour this. So let's just go like a dark red or something like that. And then let's perhaps duplicate this light. Put it around here somewhere. But yeah, that's rendering just fine, and you know, we can up this. Let's just switch off the IPR. Let's rewind. If you want to add more particles, you want to go into your source particles, and then we'll scroll down, and here's the rate. Let's stick in like 15,000 and see what it can handle. We're going to rewind, and we're going to play that. It's a lot of particles. And what's nice is the way that it moves and it works. And it's really quick to set up. That's what I like about it. And yeah, if we just start IPRing that and have a little look, let's just get it going a few more frames. Oh, I did bring the IPR in here. But yeah, there we go. Pretty neat. There's a lot of particles going on. I'll just grab this light over this side. Pump that up. And then we'll grab the eye surface. We could just look at different colours and whatnot. Just put a bit of grey in there. Yeah. So as I say, I've got to learn more about this, and I will relay all of that back to you as I learn. But I've just been introduced to it, so I just wanted to introduce it to you to show you what we're going to be working with going forward with Maya. I can't see they're going to get rid of this. This seems to be here to stay, so we need to get across it. There are tutorials out there. Autodesk have got some tutorials. The guy that's doing them says that it's not going to be a heavy tutorial, but before you know it, you're adding all sorts of integers, booleans, vectors, adds, ins, outs, divides, multipliers, all that kind of thing. I understand how all those things work. It's just knowing when, why, and where to use them. So again, it's all the more reason to use this as much as possible and try and get our head around it. We can connect all sorts of things into this. Something we can do that's pretty cool is, like, if I create a torus and I drag that in here, I'm just going to rewind the simulation. Give that a second to think about it. So what is really sick about this is that I haven't got to mess around. If I was in N particles or any other sort of particles at the moment, and I wanted to swap this model that's being emitted for this model, pain in the butt. But we can just plug this in, give it a second to think about it, and then delete this one. And now we're going to be emitting from the cone instead that we just created. That cone is not on this animation path at the moment, so it's just going to fall down from here. But if I play that, we can see that the cone is now emitting the particles. Now that cone, at some point, you could be sitting here getting your simulation how you wanted it on a piece of primitive geometry, and then when you've animated your character, drag that in here and connect it. So amazing stuff. And I implore you to go in here, just start creating, playing with different pre-made things, pre-made objects, the fire, the smoke, volume, sand, all that. Get them in and have a look inside the Bifrost graph editor and see how it's all been put together, because like this is the simplest graph you'll ever see in your life. Just another thing to look at just while we're here, just quickly, any icon that's got an icon like this, I believe it's called a compound. If you double click, it means you can go inside it and you'll go down a level into the attributes for that. And as you can see, here's upper level, here's where we were, right? And here's the level down we've just gone into. And there are some other ones, so turbulence, we can go into the turbulence some more if we wanted to. So now we're down another level. And there are worlds within worlds. Then you can just keep going down inside certain nodes and adding in different values and swapping things about. It is insane. We can jump down into here, and I believe that's like we're jumping down again. Looks like I've taken the red pill, so that's it now. We've gone down as far as we can, and we can just go up, 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 up. Pull ourselves out. I feel like Leonardo DiCaprio here in that movie. dream within a dream. But anyway, there you go. I'm rambling on because I'm excited. That's why. So expect more from this, and I'll update you with new, more interesting and exciting tutorials. Nice one, guys. Cheers. See you later.